Hello everyone and welcome to the next session in the Strategy and Planning series. My name is Andrew Gaffney. I'm Editorial Director with Demand Gen Report and glad you could join us today. One of the hot topics that you're going to hear mentioned a lot throughout the series is account-based marketing. And today's session is going to cover why ABM and Predictive are B2B marketing's 2017 power couple. We've got two great speakers and we've got a great real-world case study that's going to give you some actionable examples that you can start to apply for your own ABM approach, and hopefully we'll have some good insights even if you aren't yet doing ABM. As with all the sessions in the series, we're going to try to make this as interactive and conversational as possible, so we'd encourage you to share any of the key takeaways that you'll hear presented today, also any stats that you might see with your social networks. We'd ask that you use the hashtag SPS16. Our team will be monitoring any posts and conversations and try to answer or respond to some of those. We also share the handles for the companies and the speakers taking part today. So if you'd like to include those in your post, that's great as well. Thanks for doing that. The series is hosted and produced by Demand Gen Report. If you're not already a subscriber to Demand Gen Report, we encourage you to join more than 40,000 of your marketing peers who are taking advantage of some of the great content like this that we're producing. We also produce a lot of proprietary research on trends in B2B marketing and B2B buying. So as a subscriber, you would get access to that as well as the daily information and articles that we post in our weekly newsletter. Also would encourage you to join our social community on LinkedIn. Demand Gen Specialists is a great active group with some conversations about the topics you'll be hearing today. Also, in the spirit of making this interactive, we'd like you can follow social right within the On24 platform, so you can keep an eye on what other people are posting and respond or comment on those without leaving the platform. Also, we'd like you to submit any questions that come to mind. The presentation will go on for about 30 minutes, and then we'll take questions at the end. But please go ahead and type them as they do come to mind, and we'll be monitoring those as well. And then also there is a resource center within the On24 platform where you can access some related recommended reading on this topic and continue to learn and educate yourself. So take advantage of that as well. And then some of the frequently asked questions we get, the session is being recorded, so all registrants will get a link to go back and review today's content if there's anything you missed or share with your peers. You will get a quick survey prompt at the end of today's session. We'd appreciate any feedback you have. It should only take you about a minute to answer the questions and give us any quick feedback that helps us make sure all the content we're doing is on point and we can hopefully continue to improve it and strengthen it as we go forward. So appreciate your support there. We do have a prize box, so encouraging you all to participate and increase your odds of winning. We've got cool prizes like Amazon Echo, and you can increase your odds there of winning by being active on social media and including the hashtag. Also, if you refer or pass along the series to any of your colleagues, and then also by participating in the question and answer periods and polls, and as active as you can be, the more likely you will be to win some cool prizes, and maybe including winning a free pass to our Content to Conversion conference and B2B Marketing Exchange in February in Arizona. So in the spirit of participation, we have a quick poll. We'd like to get some feedback from the audience. This is going to be relevant to today's conversation, and would appreciate your feedback here. We'd basically like to know which attributes are you currently using to target accounts. And there's, as you can see, there's four sort of core options here: firmographics, technographics, behavior or intent, or growth attributes. So if you can click all that apply, and we're just going to gather that information that'll be helpful for us in as we shape this topic going forward. So take a quick second to participate in that. We would appreciate it. Okay, so without further ado, I mentioned we have two great speakers today that are going to address this topic, so I'm going to dive right into that and introduce you to those. We have Nipul Chokshi, who runs product marketing at Lattice Engines. Prior to Lattice, Nipul built and ran the solutions marketing and sales enablement functions at Yammer. Before Yammer, Nipul led product management and marketing at Marketo and Marced Systems. We'll also be joined by Chantel Shave, who has 12 years of experience managing marketing teams within high-growth technology companies. Chantel is currently Director of Demand Generation at Hootsuite, which is the world's most widely used social relationship platform. So welcome, both of you. I'm going to start off turning it over to you, Nipul.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Hello, everyone. Really excited to be talking to you today. As a product marketer here at Lattice Engines, I have the enviable task of talking to a lot of different customers. Customers who are leveraging the Lattice platform to drive success within their ABM platforms. What they're effectively doing when it comes to their ABM programs is typically they'll start with their target market assumptions. Typically this is a conversation that marketing will have with sales, trying to understand, what are kind of the key target accounts that the go-to-market team should jointly be targeting. Typically, this will be a conversation where they talk about, in the past, sales will say, we've typically targeted companies in the high-tech industry, their distributors, employees greater than 500, revenue greater than 150. It's kind of like that standard conversation that sales and marketing need to have in order to come up with kind of your assumptions around what your target market, target accounts should look like. Now, what most of our customers will then do is take those assumptions and create kind of a list of accounts that meets that criteria. And then they'll apply predictive analytics. So companies will use platforms like the ones provided by Lattice. And what predictive analytics does is it adds thousands and thousands of attributes to each and every account. Most predictive platforms will, have this asset that they've built up that enables you to get smarter about each account. It'll include data around firmographics, so number of locations that a particular company might have around the world, number of employees per location, revenue information, technographics, what kind of technologies are being used behind the firewall, behavior and intent data. Information around how are users within this target accounts, what are they interested in, what are they searching on, what kind of forums are they participating in, and then finally growth signals. So these are changing signals about each and every company on your target account list. So this could be things like quarter-over-quarter revenue changes, whether there's been a new executive that's been hired, whether a company signed a new lease for a new location in a particular region or whatnot. That indicates expansion for the company. So the idea is that once sales and marketing gets together and puts together kind of these assumptions around their target market, predictive analytics brings all of this data that enables you to get smarter about each and every account within that list of target accounts that you've just created. Now, ultimately, once the platform actually adds all this data and makes this data available to you, predictive analytics then behind the scenes will actually apply machine learning. And it'll look at each and every account, and what it'll do is it'll say, okay, how closely does this particular account resemble your existing customers? The closer the match, if you will, the higher score they'll get. And so that is, effectively that's kind of what we call predictive account scoring. And so what they're able to do then is they're able to use these scores to do a variety of different things. So first, what they'll do is not just use the scores to prioritize which accounts to go after, but they'll use the scores to actually inform how they're going to treat these accounts. Because typically, you want to treat these accounts differently based on their propensity to convert or what their lifetime value is to you as a company. So this is actually an example of how we do it at Lattice. And it resembles a lot about how our customers are actually using Lattice as well. So what we've done, within Lattice, we have a list of almost 4,000 target accounts that we'll go after. And we've used our platform to score those accounts. And so we have, about 100 top accounts that we call our A accounts. And what we've done is we've assigned these to our reps. So we've got, we distribute them about 20 per rep. And these are the accounts that get kind of the most attention, if you will, from a sales and marketing standpoint, in terms of driving as much personalization as possible, as much research as possible when it comes to engaging with these accounts. We then have another tier of accounts right beneath that, kind of our B accounts, if you will. There's about 500 of them, where we'll do personalization. We'll do it more at the segment and persona level. And so we'll look at things like what kind of technologies are they using behind the firewall? Are they using Marketo or Eloqua, marketing automation system? What marketing automation systems are they using? What kind of CRM systems are they using? And we'll use that information to create very targeted messages and content, whether it's through targeted ads, whether it's personalized messaging on our website, as well as personalized, customized talking points that our SDRs would use when it comes to doing kind of their outreach. And then finally, we have kind of the bulk of these accounts, which are almost kind of like we call them the C and D accounts, where we'll do personalization, but it's more at the persona level. SDRs will typically follow up to inbound requests on these accounts, obviously, but when it comes to doing outbound, there's kind of a different SLA and different set of expectations that we've set with the SDR team in terms of doing that outbound follow-up. So the whole idea here is, companies are able to use Lattice and the Predictive Analytics platform to not just add insights and data, but to also score and prioritize all of the different accounts on your target account list. And ultimately, what we'll do is we'll make all these scores and all of the firmographics data, technographics data, and so on and so forth. We'll make that available to you within your operational systems, so that you can create more personalized ads. You can drive more personalized content on your website in real time. We'll make it available within marketing automation systems like Marketo or Eloqua. So if you want to drive custom account-based nurturing programs, you can do so. We'll also make it available within CRM. So sales has the benefit of that data so that they can not just prioritize which accounts to call first, but they can also use this data to customize their talking points and the offers, and so on and so forth. And so what I want to do next is I want to turn it over to Chantal Shave from Hootsuite, one of our great customers, and I want her to basically have her walk through a real practical example of how Hootsuite leverages Lattice for account-based marketing activities.
That's great. Thanks, Nicole, and I also want to say a big thanks to everybody that's joined us today. I'm sure are probably at different stages of ABM maturity, and some people are going to be just starting out and on the call trying to get some ideas about how best to tackle it, and then there's probably others of you that have more mature ABM programs already in market. But I'm sure that you'd all agree with me and join me in agreeing with Andrew when he said in his opening that ABM is a hot topic right now, and it's getting hotter. I wanted to share just at that point a couple stats from a brief that Serious Decisions put out earlier this year on the state of ABM that I thought were really interesting. So in that study, they reported that over 70% of B2B organizations today have staff either fully or partially dedicated to ABM, and 58% of those said they currently have a pilot or test program in place. And that's really rapid adoption if you think of where we were sort of a year ago when people were talking about it but not necessarily having those programs live. And the reason why we're seeing this is pretty simple. It's when ABM is done right, it works because it allows you to align the focus of your sales and marketing activities on the accounts where you expect to see growth. And it really works from a customer perspective too, because you're able to do that deeper account research and then deliver really targeted and personalized communication that's aligned with their needs and really focused on providing value. And in that same study, they talked about 58% of companies were planning to invest in ABM services or technology in the coming year. And I know from when we got started, and many of you might be feeling the same way, it can be really difficult to know which are the right technologies for your ABM stack and which are the ones that you actually think you're going to see those real results from. So at Hootsuite, we've been approaching ABM for about the last year, maybe 12 to 18 months. That's building out our teams, the programs, the tools. And Predictive is just definitely one of those tools that really has worked for us. So that's why I'm glad to be here today and just talk to you guys a little bit more about what Predictive ABM in action looks like at Hootsuite, and then hopefully share some that you can use to ramp your own ABM efforts. So first, just a really quick for those of you who aren't familiar with us. As Andrew mentioned, we're the most widely used platform for managing social media across the customer journey, from awareness to engagement to retention. And we have a suite of tools that enable you to do that either through social marketing or social selling, social customer service. And then my role specifically as the Director of Demand Gen is really focused on funnel optimization. So I work across our marketing organization to help the teams deliver really targeted multi-channel campaigns that deliver a fluid customer experience. And then I also align really closely with the sales org on funnel management. So just making sure that we're delivering the quality and the quantity of leads from the organizations that they want to see them from so that I'm enabling them to be successful. So Hootsuite was founded in 2008, and today we've got over 15 million users from around the world, from SMB, the largest organizations, including 800 of the Fortune 1000. And that really large user base is driven by our freemium model. So we have 5 plan types, and they range from free to enterprise. And more than half of our enterprise customers come from that free model. So one of the primary objectives for my team is to more readily identify who in our user base are going to be really good prospects for us to upgrade to those higher value plans. And it may not always be evident from the data that we have, and this is where supplementing that data with predictive can be really valuable. So we began working with Lattice, say a year and a half ago, and we had 2 objectives in mind. So one was, as I mentioned, identifying those accounts that were strong candidates for upgrade. And then the other was accelerating our sales funnel and finding ways that we could shorten the time it takes to generate MQLs or AQLs. You may call them marketing qualified leads or automation qualified leads in your organization. But those leads that are in a sales ready state, how can we surface them more rapidly? With Predictive Analytics, it gives us this clear understanding of that customer fit and the propensity to purchase much higher in the funnel. So it provides that fuel for that acceleration, so you can actually get your funnel moving more quickly, shorten your sales cycle. And when we got started with them to build our model, Lattice evaluated all the enterprise opportunities or wins that we'd had within the previous year to look for the common attributes that those organizations shared, and then the degree to which those attributes influence the likelihood for that organization to become a Hootsuite customer. And once we had that model, then we scored our entire database using those attributes. So we assigned the accounts a value based on their similarity to the organizations that had become customers previously. And we ran that over the existing database, and then all of the new leads are scored automatically as they come in as well. And that brings us to the account-based journey, which is that we had the model in place, we had the scores in place, and then how do you take that and use ABM programs, and how are we maturing our use cases over time? At Hootsuite, we also have 3 ABM segments, but they differ just a little bit from the ones that are used by Lattice. So for us, we start with the existing customer base, where we focus our ABM programs on the accounts that we feel are going to be good candidates for additional products or seats, so mining that existing customer base for those cross-sell and upsell opportunities. Then the next tier, which is very similar to what Nicole showed, is the top 10 accounts by rep. So I think they have 20, we have 10, but these accounts that the sales organization does really deep account planning and market research on. And the programs for that group and the customer accounts feature a high degree of account-level personalization wherever possible. So we're really trying to get towards that one-to-one marketing. And in order to do that, we pull in a bunch of teams throughout the organization. So it also requires a lot of collaboration between the team, the field marketing teams, all of the groups that you've got in your marketing org. And then the third segment that we look at are our industry-targeted accounts, where There's a much larger group. We may not have the ability for that full account personalization. ABM is about focus, and you really want to make sure that you're picking your battles and spending your time at the strongest account. But for this larger base, we're still able to deliver differentiated programs, and we base those on industry or persona data that we might have. And we use predictive data across all of these segments, both for the account selection and then also to provide insights to the marketing team and the sales team that are actually engaging with these accounts. So let's take a closer look. So the success to any ABM program is first and foremost dependent on choosing the right accounts at the outset. And to really reap the benefits of your ABM strategy, it's best to invest the time and resources up front to the organization's needs and how you're going to be able to help them succeed. So as I mentioned earlier, it's about focus. You're focusing on these accounts jointly with sales, and these are the accounts where you expect that you're going to see those conversions and you're going to drive that growth. So it's really important to invest the effort in that account selection up front so that you don't find yourself needing to pivot once your programs have launched. And I can tell you from experience, so when we started at Hootsuite, it took us 3 runs to get the account selection right. And I think the issues that we encountered were that we weren't working collaboratively between marketing and sales on that selection. And as soon as we got aligned, then we were able to really see the benefits of the program. So that's a piece of advice for all of you. Definitely start and do it jointly from the outset. And at Hootsuite, the predictive data is just one input in the account selection process. That's that joint effort between the sales and marketing teams. So we evaluate the predictive score alongside other factors. And to do that, we use an ABM account priority framework, an assessment model from Serious Decisions. But you don't necessarily need to follow a given framework or a given model. Really looking at what are those other factors that might influence your likelihood to convert these leads or to close them. And for us, it's things like the size of the opportunity, the competitive landscape, what's our current account penetration, what is our relationship with the target organization, and then there's others, but that's just to give you guys an idea of a few. And then we evaluate all of those attributes together, which allows us to give each proposed account a weighted score, and that's ultimately what we use to determine the account selection. So, while not every account that scores through predictive is going to make the final cut, predictive definitely gives us a data-driven starting place for that conversation. And then once you've got your account selected, it's time to identify your goals, build your messaging, choose the tactics that you think are going to for program delivery, and then identify opportunities to personalize those tactics. And again, predictive data is a great way to do that. So at Hootsuite, one of the most valuable Lattice features for us is the ability to get this very detailed information about which platforms and technologies an organization is using. And those attributes were very helpful at the outset to identify the target accounts and build the model. But because that data is available to then enrich our database, we also surface it in Marketo, and then we can use that for further personalization. So for the example here, our customers are able to extend the functionality of Hootsuite. We have an app directory that has 150 apps in it, allows us to integrate with things like Salesforce and Zendesk and MailChimp and Marketo. And what you're looking at here are targeted display ads for a product that we have called Content Sources, where we're able to determine which between Box and Dropbox and Google Drive and organizations were using to store their content that they would be surfacing through social, and then give them the exact ad that speaks to their use case. So another feature of Lattice that we're just now starting to take advantage of is the ability to build and test multiple models. So what I mean by that is when we started, we built the one algorithm that I sort of walked you guys through earlier, and we've applied that across the entire business. But what we can do now is tease out specific areas or like shine a light really specifically based on what our desired outcome is. So for Q1, we're looking at building new models that will help us better identify cross-sell opportunities, for example, or upsell opportunities. We've introduced a couple new products in the time that we've been using Lattice, and we want to make sure that we've got models that are specific to the conversions and attributes for those. And the other thing is we've also looked at ABM and predictive through a really a global lens. But as our organization matures, we want to be able to really empower the regions, and so we're going to be building out the predictive models by region too, to really allow those specifically manage their area of the business. And I guess the real question is, are we seeing results from Predictive? And for us, the answer is yes. So I can't share actual numbers, but these are some stats that I think do a pretty good job of illustrating the really positive impact that Predictive has had here at Hootsuite. So after we launched initially, it took about a quarter for us to identify the leads in the database, deliver them to the sales team, and have them start working their way through the funnel. And so there's some pipeline generation early on, but there was really, I think, a quarter of ramp to have the program mature. And then between the second and third quarter after deployment, our predicted influence pipeline jumped by 10x. So that was really exciting to see that hockey stick when we started to see the impact we were having. We also treat these leads differently scoring models. So by doing that, we've been able to accelerate these leads that Predictive is surfacing from a lead to MQL by 30%, while we're still maintaining our conversion targets. So really moving things more quickly at the top of our funnel. And then most importantly, I think, is that we've achieved 4x ROI on our predictive investment in the first year, and we're on track to see even stronger results this year in our second year. So I hope that's given you guys an idea of why we see Predictive and ABM as the power couple, and why we're continuing to look to find new ways to use Predictive in our programs. I just want to thank you all again for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Nipolo. Those are great examples, insights that you shared. Really appreciate that. We're going to take some questions from the audience. We've already had some really good ones come in, but I want to remind everybody that you can go ahead and type in questions as they come to mind. We'll spend about 10 minutes going through some questions. Quick reminder, you will get a survey prompt, and again, we appreciate any feedback you can give us. Just try to take a minute, and that'll help us make sure all the content in the strategy and planning series and their sessions will be valuable, so appreciate your feedback. Okay, let me switch to questions. Chantal, let me ask you first. We had a question from Dawn that I'd like to get your perspective on. She said, I'm looking to start an ABM initiative at my company. Do you have any tips on how I should go about doing it? Any gotchas I should be aware of, she asked.
Yeah, I think advice that I'd give that maybe we didn't touch on in the presentation is, first of all, make sure that you've got buy-in in the organization. So understand who your ABM team would consist of, and that might be product and sales and marketing, but think about who you need to pull in, because it does need to be a joint effort. I'd say, as I mentioned, work with sales really closely on that account selection, and use a broader set of criteria than what is just likely to close, which is what we find that sales teams default to, but may not be the best or strategic choice for long-term success. And then another big piece of advice I'd give is to start with a pilot. Don't try and boil the ocean. People can get very excited when they hear that these programs are happening. Everybody throws a bunch of names in the hat, and there's no way that you can deliver that kind of personalization that really makes that sets ABM programs apart from just standard marketing. So start small, understand what's working, and then scale it out from there.
Okay, great. We had a question from Rob. Let me get your perspective on this one, Nicole. What tactics have you found work really well in engaging with target accounts?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking across kind of our customer base as well as what we've seen internally. We've definitely seen kind of a surge in terms of field marketing type events as well as direct mail programs. It's kind of like the everything old is new again sort of thing that we're seeing. Those are definitely two tactics that we've seen, when it comes to driving very personalized engagement that have been particularly effective. Chantal, I don't know if you've kind of seen something similar at Hootsuite.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. So, we found ourselves. First of all, I'd say that the tactics that have worked for you in the past are going to continue to work, and they'll probably work better in the instances where you're delivering, like I said, that really personalized, relevant message. But we're also adding those new old tactics into our mix, and so direct mail is playing a part in our campaigns. We're adding things that may be more expensive ordinarily, and they couldn't be cost effectively deployed in a broad setting, but can perform really well in targeted programs like strategic workshops or in increasing our investment events like executive dinners and breakfasts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, interestingly enough, one really cool example, a customer that I was talking to, they do network security software. And so what they found was direct mail. It is a pretty sort of expensive tactic, but it's also very effective. They saw actually up to 50% reduction in cost per opportunity, simply because they were able to kind of say, okay, I'm going to focus on just those accounts that are most likely to close. And they use predictive analytics to do that, but then they execute a direct mail campaign against those accounts. And to Chantal's point earlier, ABM is really all about personalizing the content. And so because they were able to kind of say, okay, these are the accounts that we know have a high likelihood of closing, they're going to put that's where they're going to put their money from a personalization standpoint. And so direct mail, that we thought was a really cool example of how direct mail can actually drive some significant impact, at the same time help drive lower cost per opportunity.
Yeah, great point. Question from Ray in the audience. Chantal, you shared some of the results that you've seen, but he's asking, are the metrics any different when you measure success from standard marketing programs with ABM?
Yeah, they are. There's definitely another suite of metrics that you'll want to be considering alongside what you might think of as your standard funnel. Lift and engagement is a new one for us that we're sort of specific to the ABM programs, where we're actually looking to see what's going on the website and then feeding that information back into the sales rep. So are our programs bringing people to the site? They may not necessarily be making themselves known, so we're using other programs to surface that data and then through GA share it back with sales. We look at funnel conversion, velocity, and then the number of leads at each stage as well, too, as I mentioned before.
Nicole, any other metrics you've seen that are different?
Yeah, no, that's in line with what we've seen. Rather than talking about MQLs, we've definitely seen more and more people talk about MQAs, marketing qualified accounts. I know that was a term that was coined by John Miller over at Engagio, but we're definitely seeing more around measuring the engagement, as Chantal mentions. Yeah.
Okay, great. Another question we had from Terry: how often should you refresh your target account list? Nicole, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. The answer definitely does depend. Depends on kind of like the dynamics of your business and the kind of account that you're going after. Like for us, for example, kind of our A-tier accounts, those top 100 accounts. We consider these to be our highest value accounts. Those aren't necessarily going to be as easily cycled in or out. Because it's going to take a while to kind of work through those accounts. So that's probably, that's the refresh rate on those is, kind of a few quarters worth. Whereas some of the lower tier accounts, the refresh rate tends to be a little more frequent.
Chantal, is that consistent for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very aligned. Us, obviously, the customer programs are kind of always on. And then if we look at the more strategic named accounts, we look at about a year, and then for the other smaller accounts or perhaps smaller opportunities, it's more like 2 quarters. So I think it's exactly in line with what Nicole said.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to try to take one more question from Tom. He said they're using pretty traditional data sources right now. He asked if there are any other data sources they should be looking at in terms of providing account-level insights to sales. Nicole, you take that one first?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in general, what most companies, at least in my experience, start out doing is looking at simple things like firmographics. They'll look at like industry, they'll look at employees, size, to kind of like help them, kind of provide those basic insights, and that's like the standard B&B attributes, if you will. The next step, what we'll see is we'll see companies using things like technology information. What kind of technologies are they using? So Chantal's earlier example of how they have different ads depending on whether you're using, Google versus, Microsoft or whatnot. That's kind of another level. The software, the network software company that I talked about earlier that uses that direct mail program, their direct mail program. One of the attributes that they'll look at is they'll look at intent data. And so what they're doing is they're looking for signals. So if a company that's on their target account list that's done some searches or clicked on ads related to network security, for example, or how to prevent, catastrophic failure with network security and whatnot. They'll kind of use that as a signal to kind of say, okay, this is a company that, because it's on my target account list, we know that it looks like a customer and it's a good bet that they're going to close. But because they've actually done this search, they've expressed this intent, we know that they're actually in market for a particular solution as well. So intent data is another one. We also have another company in the telecommunication space. What they'll look at is they'll look at things like job postings, as well as executive changes. So because they know that traditionally when they sell their communication software within a particular enterprise, they typically tend to know that a CIO is new. That's when they have the highest likelihood of success in terms of penetrating that account. And so looking at signals around, executive hires and changes, as communicated by job postings as well as press releases and whatnot, that's another set of signals that we've seen our customers use in order to kind of provide deeper insights around the accounts on a target list.
Okay. All right. This has been great. I really appreciate both of you sharing all these great examples and insights. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to thank everybody for attending today. This has been a great session. Hopefully you found it useful. I'll remind everybody that the next session in the series will be at 3 p.m. today. It's going to be continuing the ABM conversation, and we'll be looking at how you can create and measure an ABM strategy with some different approaches and another customer example. So hopefully you can tune in for that as well, and also keep an eye on the full agenda throughout the week. We'll be discussing ABM, measurement, a lot of other topics we started to touch on today. So thanks again to Chantal and Nipul for a great session today, and hopefully we'll see you at the remaining sessions in the series. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.